Straight up. Study. Okay, let's get back into it. We are in, I'd like to finish this chapter of Proverbs, and then, well, let's not. Let's just limit it to 2 segments of Proverbs, and then we'll go into our Genesis study. We'll start here again on Tuesday at Proverbs 11:26 on Tuesday. Okay, and I'll put make sure I know where to start again. Okay, let's go over to our Genesis study. And we ended up yesterday, excuse me, in, what's wrong with this mic? Oh, well, okay. I guess it's going to be like that. All right, we ended up with in 34:26. We're going to start in, well, we ended up at 25. We're going to start in chapter 34 of Genesis and verse 26. Okay. Keep track of where we are here. 34:26. Okay. Now this is a really great study in Genesis. We've been going through a lot of history and learning a lot of really cool things in this. I don't know what's wrong with that mic, but hopefully you can still hear me. Okay. In verse 26, and they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword. Now let's give you a little bit of background. What happened is that Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, was raped by Shechem, the son of Hamor, the king, and where they were sojourning, Jacob and his family. But Shechem really loved Dinah. He wanted to take her for his wife. He treated her wrongly. I think he had probably been drinking, and he forced himself upon her. And her brothers were furious. But he came and his father came, and they asked for her hand in marriage to marry the king's son because of what had happened. And his father was anxious to make things right with Jacob and his family and to combine their peoples together. Now, Jacob's sons had said, it can't be unless all of your men become circumcised. And so they were so anxious to make things right in any way they could with them that they agreed to that. And so all of the men in the city were circumcised on the same day. And what that did was cause them all to be weak in their flesh to where they were not able to fight. And it says here in verse 25, and it came to pass on the third day when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. They went in there and killed every single one of them. And they slew Hamor, their king, the king of the city, excuse me, and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. In verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city. They took what they wanted from the city because they had defiled their sister. That's how they justified this action in their minds to themselves. In verse 28, they took their sheep and their oxen and their asses and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Jacob was very upset with his sons in the way they responded. In verse 31, and they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? Let's go straight into chapter 35. And God said unto Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto God, that appeared unto thee when thou fleddest from the face of Esau thy brother. In verse 2, then Jacob said unto his household, and to all that were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them. And they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. Evidently, when word got out, everybody else was scared of them. And so they didn't pursue them. And that was a dread that was a gift that God put upon them to where they were not pursued. So Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, he and all the people that were with him. And he built there an altar and called the place El Bethel, because there God appeared unto him. Appeared unto him. Appeared. Okay? Notice when that word is used. God appeared unto him when he fled from the face of his brother. Remember when he was wrestling with the spirit, with the angel of the Lord? But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak, and the name of it was called Allon Bakuth. And God appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Padan Aram, and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. So Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and this is where the people of God were first called by that name. Excuse me. In verse 11, and God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. And the King of Kings actually descends from Judah, one of Jacob's sons. In verse 12, and the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee will I give the land. And God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. It's interesting, isn't it? God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, even a pillar of stone. And he poured a drink offering thereon, and he poured oil thereon. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spake with him, Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. Now remember, Rachel was barren for many years, just like Rebecca was barren for many years. Sarah was barren for many years. Hannah was barren for many years. You've got all of these different situations, and Elizabeth and Zechariah are another. There, to where children were born to them after being barren all of their lives. And this is a demonstration, I believe, that God is showing us that children who are born by the will of the Spirit, rather in opposition to the will of the flesh. Ishmael was born by the will of the flesh. Then Isaac was born by the Spirit, the will of the Spirit, born of God. And the proof of that was that Sarah was 90 years old and became pregnant with Isaac at 90 years old. Wow. But God, I think, wanted to demonstrate to us that he wanted her to be that old to show us that he can plant a child in the womb by the Spirit of a woman who is not only barren all her life, but she's 90 years old. God is in control. And it came to pass when she was in hard labor that the midwife said unto her, Fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass as her soul was in departing, for she died. This is where Rachel dies in childbirth. That she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. Okay, Ephrath, that's Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon her grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And if you go and visit in Israel, you can see Rachel's tomb at Bethlehem. And Israel journeyed and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar. In verse 22 of Genesis 35. And it came to pass when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. That's such a no-no. What was he thinking? Obviously, he was not thinking. And Israel heard it. That's Jacob. He heard about it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid. Dan. See, Dan was the disinherited tribe. And Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padan Aram. In verse 27, and Jacob came unto Isaac his father, unto Mamre, unto the city of Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And the days of Isaac were 180 years. That's 180 years. 180 on that. And Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Let's go straight into chapter 36. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Now notice Edom. Let's see. Now I want to look something up for you. Esau, who is Edom. Let's see. I like to look these terms up for you so we know what we're talking about. Now, Edom was an ancient people group that inhabited the land south of Judah and the Dead Sea. The Edomites, also called Idumeans, descended from Esau. So, gosh, I've got a catch in my throat. Okay. In verse 2 of Genesis chapter 36, Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan. Now, see, that was one thing that his father Isaac and mother Rebekah were real unhappy about. But Esau was born by the will of, he was actually, I say born of the flesh. They were twins, Jacob and Esau. Jacob was born with the temple of God inside him as the heir, and Esau was born only of the flesh. He was not the heir. Esau took wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. In verse 3, and Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. So remember when he heard his father and mother talking about how they did not approve of his Canaanite wives. Esau took 2 Canaanite wives. Esau then went to Ishmael's family and took a daughter of Ishmael, hoping to make his father and mother more happy about who he had chosen as a wife. He was trying to manipulate back his inheritance, but he couldn't get it. So Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. In verse 4, and Adah bare to Esau Eliphaz, and Bashemath bare Reuel. In verse 5, and Aholibamah bare Jeush, and Jaalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. Now, you have to forgive me if I mispronounce some of these names. I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right or not. I just do the best I can here. In verse 6, and Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters, and all the persons of his house, and his cattle, and all his beasts, and all his substance, which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. So Esau took all that was his and went into the country away from Jacob and his family. In verse 7, for their riches were more than they might dwell together. Does that sound familiar? Remember Lot and Abraham had to split ways because the land could not bear all of their substance. So in verse 7, for their riches were more than they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. They were very wealthy. In verse 8, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Okay? In verse 9, and these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. In verse 10, these are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Ada, the wife of Esau; Ruel, the son of Bashemath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omer, Zepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz. In verse 12, and Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son. And she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Ada, Esau's wife. Now, Amalek was the father of the Amalekites, if that sounds familiar to you. And these are the sons of Ruel: Nahath and Zerah, Shammah and Mizah. These were the sons of Bashemath, Esau's wife. Okay, we're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll pick up our study in Genesis 36:14, right on the other side of the